Well, this is Baruch Fleischman here, trying to find some good music. We do take recommendations. There's billions and billions of songs, all kinds of things to say. Trying to make some kind of introduction and background for the learning that we're doing. So here we are over here on part 2 in Rabbi Mimran's tremendous book. Now, what he told me yesterday, what I understood about him yesterday, and from talking to him and knowing him so well, or well, I don't know him that well, but I mean, I learned with him for a few years. We learned that basically we ourselves are composed of mostly space, nothing. That if you looked at us really, really deeply, you would find that the little particles, which are very far separated from each other, that's what he said yesterday, are really so distant from each other that it's very difficult to see how you would put them together, but somehow they are put together in something that makes sense. And then he spoke about the concept of vibrations. Now just go back 150 years or so, before the time that the concept of waves was developed. There were no radios back then. We'll go back 200 years. I don't know I can't count anymore. I don't know exactly how far back it was. But this is all really took place mostly in the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, the development of waves, of understanding that in fact that there are waves out there. But we didn't have a receptacle to be able to bring them in. So we have two things that we have to understand, is that the particles that exist within us are actually vibrating. That's what he said in the last year. And that they're few and far between. It's really hard to understand, because here we are, I got a head, I got a body, I got feet, so on and so forth. And I feel. But all of those things could be illusory. So let's see, or illusional, is that the right word? Rabbi Mimran writes, modern science reveals insights into the spiritual world. By sinning, this automatically distances Klal Yisrael with their Father in heaven. It is written, you are attached to Hashem until you sin. So this is dealt with a lot in the Zohar. The concept of when we make mistakes, how it opens us up to accusations from the other side, which really torments our lives and leads us into further sinning. Let's read what he said. He says, many modern physicists have postulated the existence of a faster-than-light particle, known as the tachyon. That's what I pronounce it. If indeed this exists, then the probably form a universe in their own place and according to their own properties of physics. Similar to the way protons, neutrons, and electrons form us in our universe. When we think of protons, neutrons, and electrons, we visualize them as being light. Let's say round marbles or balls. This is how subatomic particles are portrayed in science books and taught in schools. Yet the pioneer theory in physics today is that these subatomic particles are not these little dots of matter that you always saw when they show the sign of nuclear sign, but rather a group of vibrating strings. Indeed, all subatomic matter is said to be merely various degrees of resonance, vibrating on these subnuclear strings. Let's read it again. All subatomic matter is said to be merely various degrees of resonance vibrating on these subnuclear strings. The whole universe, then, is founded upon sound, vibration. Matter is nothing more than a symphony of vibrating strings in space/time. However, there is one unique principle about matter. The vibrating strings all vibrate lower than the speed of light. Now, what does this mean? It is thus possible that there is a universe invisible to us made of particles, which are sound resonance upon strings, that travel, which another word for this is called modulate, faster than the speed of light. Now, let me see if I read this right. There is the one unique principle about matter. The vibrating strings all vibrate lower than the speed of light. So they vibrate lower than the speed of light. So since they're vibrating lower than the speed of light, it is thus possible that there is a universe invisible to us of particles, sound resonance upon strings, and he explains that's what particles are. It's really sound resonance upon strings that travel, and he says that modulate faster than the speed of light. They go faster than the speed of light. With the advances in modern physics, the realm of the invisible is no longer the domain of religions and science fiction. The realm of the the invisible is now a science fact. We all know that feelings such as love and thought exist. Nevertheless, neither of these can be subject to mathematical analysis or a theory of their operational present. That can be subject to mathematical analysis or a theory of their operations presented. All these particles, such as protons, neutrons, and electrons, there is by definition a cohesive bond that binds them together. Comparatively speaking, there is as much space between subatomic particles as there is between planets and stars. As this is the case, what actually is the nature of the force that binds them together? How do subatomic particles that form my hand know they belong to my hand and not to the table upon which my hand rests presently? At our human level, I can recognize forms which create the difference between my hand and the table. Yet, at a subatomic level, all that exists are these little particles that bear no resemblance to that which they form. How is it then that they know what to form? What force binds combinations of subatomic particles into atoms and eventually molecules? The answer is the power of Hashem, the Creator. As briefly mentioned above, one of the subatomic theories is that the smallest particles of matter, indeed billions of times smaller than neutrons and protons, are strings. Now, he said that before. These tiny little strings, and really tiny, each vibrate in a different way, expressing a different frequency. Similar to a violin, one string can manifest different noises, so too these subatomic strings can each vibrate at a different resonance. Together, these strings create the orchestra of the universe. In other words, underlying all forms of matter is our four-dimension space-time, not of any type of particle, but only of various sounds upon strings. Physical matter is therefore founded upon sound. In order to understand this, we must understand the relationship between physical matter and energy. According to Einstein's famous theory of relativity, which is E equals mc squared, which is energy equals the mass times a constant, and I think the next word is squared. Energy is equal to mass times the speed of light. That's what he says. Mass times the speed of light. The difference between energy and mass is defined by the speed of light. If the string theory is correct, and according to Kabbalah it is, the difference between energy and physical mass is simply the frequency of vibrations of the strings. That which vibrates faster than the speed of light is energy. That which vibrates slower than the speed of light is mass. This is Baruch Fleischman. Let's bring on a little bit more of that music, which I'm trying to match up here. See what it sounds like.